Hey there, sports fans. Welcome to the 10 Yards Back podcast with me, your host, Jim, for my 6 Again episode for round 3 of the Betfred Super League 2025. And what a round it was. We had 48 tries, 36 conversions, another golden point, another nilling, and a hypnotist. All in the space of 4 days. How lucky are we? Now, this week's 6 Again is going to be dominated largely by one very special event that happened on Saturday the 1st of March, 2025, and so that basically will cover one of these matches. So some of my 6 Again this week are going to be a little bit weak. I'll be honest, and I'm probably gonna kind of hop over a few of them there. Okay, so let's dive right in. Number 1 on my 6 Again this week is Junior December. Junior December, number 11 for Wigan. People can't shut up about this guy, and I don't get it. Aside from the fact that he's bigger, stronger, faster, more handsome, nicer, and more talented than everybody else, I don't understand why people keep going on about Junior December, okay? Number 2. No, I'm just kidding. Junior's seems to be a really nice lad. People are, rightfully giving him his plaudits all over Sky, all over the rugby league landscape as it was. In my opinion, the Junior he seems to be the perfect forward, the perfect second rower. The modern day second row, in my opinion, is the hardest position to play on the field. You don't get the plaudits of a prop. You don't get the tries that a centre gets, yet you are right in the middle of those two positions, sort of thing. Junior plays it perfectly because he has the size, the height, the speed to be that second row, but he also has the ability to get the ball out when he has to. He has the ability to run down the field when he has to. Very bright kid, but he's a talking point nonetheless. That's my point here. Okay, all right. Number 2 on my. Bear in mind, this is my Jim's 6 Again this week. Is Saints' first try of the weekend. Now, Saints beat Wakefield 6 points to 26. So Saints scoring the 26, of course. This is on Saturday afternoon as well, so Saturday 1st of March. Kind of a little palette and a amuse-bouche for the main event in Vegas that evening. And to be fair, I thought the game was very competitive. Wakefield, obviously, this year's everyone would have pegged them to not do anything this year, and thankfully there's another team that seems to be now pegged with that brush. But yeah, I mean, Saints are a perennial force in the Super League, and for Wakefield to be as competitive with Saints as they were for that 80 minutes, albeit 20 points the difference or whatever, ignore that. The game itself was a good game. You always thought Wakefield were in with a chance, except until about 70 minutes. Wakefield could always come back from that. The talking point for me is the first try that Saints scored. God, it was the scrappiest try I've ever seen in my life, and this is why I'm bringing it to your attention. So, basically, John Bennison on the wing finds himself getting bowled into touch. Now, he keeps the ball in play, fair enough to him, by, in my opinion, lobbing it at least 3 yards forward to Curtis Sirenen, who picks it up. The referee doesn't say anything. Curtis Sirenen then has the ball. He's that, that modern second rower that we're talking about. Curtis Sirenen has the ball and drops it. Luckily, as he drops it, it hits his foot. It then bowls forward. The Wakefield defence don't know what's going on because they were planning on defending a good attack. And Jack Wellsby comes and does what he does and puts it down. This is about 20 minutes into the game. I believe Saints scored first, so the fact that we're waiting on 20 minutes for Saints to score in that 26 points is just another example of how competitive that match actually was. All right, number three. And this is my sad one, really, for the week. Number 3 on the talking points, the 6th again this week, has to be the Salford Red Devils. Now, in my opinion, off the top of my head, in the past, probably have to, the past 5 seasons, so from 2019 to 2024, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 teams. I'll put the real number down there to have reached the grand final, and Salford's one of them. They finished 4th last season, and did so in style as well. All right, their antics towards the end of the season wasn't great, putting that half team out, but they finished 4th. They've been to the final. Salford are a competitor in the league, and we need Salford. Now, that being said, we're at round 3 now, and they're 156 to 6 against them. Yeah. Now, everyone wants to write that first game against Saints off because they fielded basically a kid's side. Doesn't matter. That's what they have. That's what they have access to. That first game happened, whether it was a weakened side or not. It still happened, and it still contributed to this scoreline of 156 to 6. Now, as I was watching that game on Thursday, it was, and I sat down to watch that because for me, Hull KR versus Salford is a game that I could watch every week. They're two teams that seem to be, their fates kind of seem to be pegged for some reason. They'll always rise and fall at about the same time, and so they always seem to be a really good matchup. I always really enjoy that game, that Salford Hull KR game, twice a year, 3 times a year, whenever it comes around. So as I was watching it, and I saw the 42-0 happen in front of me, I thought, right, I'm going to dig out some stats here. I'm going to find out how Salford did in the opening 3 rounds of the 2024 season, and then I'm going to compare it to how they did this season. I'm going to find out who was there and where. I don't have to do that because they're now in special measures again. So we know something's up. We know something's going wrong. There are rumours, and rumours, I have no information on this, of people not being paid for XYZ amid this takeover. Unfortunately, Salford are a talking point this week, and I really want to be here in another 3 rounds talking about Salford again, but God, how they've turned it around. And that's my genuine hope. I really hope. I was at the game, first round of the season, Saints, Salford. All right, everyone must forget about it. The thing that I'll never forget about from that game is that they were getting pasted, 82-0. And even when Saints were in the 70s, those 2,000 or 4,000, however many Salford fans came, were singing in chorus, "I see the Salford Reds are rising." And at that point I thought, yeah, there really is only one way for them to go from here, and that's to rise. And I just really hope that they do rise, and that the Salford Reds do rise, and that they're competitive, because how good would that be at the end of the year if we're sat here watching A Salford even in the top 6, anywhere in the top 6, would be fantastic. All right, Sadman over number 4. Mean old Lee. This is something that I've considered putting in the podcast for a couple of weeks because it's a funny one. So at the end of last season, I saw Lee's defence really build, and I think that's why they were so. Even though at the end of last season they were scoring tries for fun, particularly like the Saints, were battered by Lee. And there were a couple of other teams as well where the likes of Josh Charnley, Edwin Ipape, Lachlan Lamb, they just really seem to meld together and just fucking score points for fun. The thing that I also noticed in the last season, though, was that the defence was getting fierce, and it was really coming together. Now, at the start of this season, especially the first game of this season, you really see that Lee defence just really building and building. There's one particular point this weekend, and it's at 57 minutes. And I'll try to get the footage here. So it's 57 minutes. It's Lee versus Catalans, and Lee kick for they're kicking for territory at this point. So they're on about 10 meters, something like that. They kick essentially for a dropout. They're going for dead. But the Catalans fullback catches the ball, and not only does he catch it, he touches it down in his own area. So that's a dropout, right? But that's not good enough for Lee. They still decide to just bowl the guy out at touch anyway. They bowl him dead. And I was watching that thinking, God, that is just mean, isn't it? And there's been a couple of instances now throughout the 3 rounds where I've just thought, God, Leeds' defence is just really mean. And I'm really looking forward to them cycling back round to what seemed to be the big dogs in the competition this year. Not necessarily not even necessarily the Warringtons and the Hull KRs, those teams that are deadly from a distance. I want them to come up against the Saints, Wigan, Leeds, even Hull FC, to be honest, a full-strength Hull FC. I really want Lee to come up against those teams and really show me what they've got, because I think it's quite a lot. All right, number 5. This is a talking point. This is one of everyone's 6 agains, both sides of the world, both hemispheres, and it's Vegas, baby. It's, Sin City. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Fear and loathing in Las Vegas, and I feel like some teams will have left Las Vegas loathing for sure, and some teams will have left Las Vegas scared, probably, for the season ahead. I'm going to approach this from a Super League angle. Nothing to do with the NRL. They do their own thing, or the international fixture that was the ladies' international fixture. So, Super League. The Super League game that happened, it was Wigan versus Warrington. Two teams that are always there or thereabouts in the top tier of the Super League. Decided to play each other in Vegas. Now, when this fixture was announced, this Vegas fixture, it was kind of a couple of months after the success of the NRL opening round, that is, in the NRL, a couple of months earlier. But it was kind of just after the worst, the most disappointing fixture of the 2024 season, which was the Challenge Cup final between Wigan and Warrington. Because basically in that game, Warrington just never showed up, and it ruined the game, if I'm being honest. And yeah, they kind of clawed it back. I think the score at the end there was 18-8 or 14-8 or something like that off the top of my head. And it wasn't the best. We were kind of, it was a will they won't they. Will Warrington topple Wigan, and will Wigan's solid defence really crack this Warrington side? And it was kind of just like, no, Warrington didn't use their number one weapon, which is their attack, and that kind of ruined that game. But we're talking about this one. So looking back now, my opinion on the Vegas fixture, though, even though the Challenge Cup was such a disappointment, my opinion on the fixture is that it could only ever be these two teams from the Super League. It could only be these two teams. A couple of years ago, all right, you would have had to have thrown Saints in there, maybe. Wigan are undeniable at this point in time. Everyone talks about Field and French, but there's so much more than that right now, and it pains me to say it as a non-Wigan fan. Wigan, they got all 4 trophies in their cabinet right now. They had the league title the year before, plenty of league leaders throughout the years as well. Wigan are undeniable right now, so it had to be Wigan. And they needed a dance partner who were willing to play that American Vegas baby ball. The only other team for sure in the league that could do it is Warrington. And I've already said about the Warrington marketing machine. It had to be them. It had to be Wigan versus Warrington. So you can take your team selection off. It was always going to be those two. It had to be those two. You know what? Even when Saints were 3 in a row and no one could beat them, I would still say that Wigan or Warrington were a better choice to play that fixture than Saints were. Even then. And even, maybe not Leeds. I think Leeds back in the day, Leeds are a bit cooler than Saints, I think. But anyway, it was always going to be those two teams. Now, my worry going into that, as I just said, was in Wigan's DNA is defence. It's brick wall. It's come at me. It's do your best and, fail, basically. Which isn't very appealing to American audience. In Warrington's DNA, basically, is bottlers. All right? They won the Challenge Cup in, I think, 2019, maybe 2018. Bowled Saints over, everyone's favourites. But outside of that, they've kind of bottled it every time they've been in a major game. And this isn't from a fan perspective. This is just what I think is fact, right? Just looking objectively at the information we've got. So my worry was that Warrington weren't going to show up. And I think that actually what happened on that day, March the 1st, 2025 in Vegas, was the worst advertisement for Super League that could have happened. And I'll tell you why. When you ask fans, coaches, players what the difference between the Super League and the NRL is, it's that the NRL is week in, week out. Every game is tough. There are no Castlefords. There are no Salfords now. There are no Huddersfields most years. In the NRL, every game is a big game. It's competitive. It's fierce. You're always up against it. You're always smashing up against rocks in the NRL. So when we got to Saturday, about 10 minutes in, I said to my wife, I was like, okay, well, even if Wigan win this, at least Warrington are showing some flair, because they were at that point. So at least if Wigan win it, I hope it's close, because Warrington are at least being fancy with the ball. They're showing flair. And to me, the NRL isn't really full of flair. But instead what happened was that for 60 minutes, Wigan battered Warrington. They embarrassed them. It was, what was it, 42-0 at 60 minutes? 42-0 is a lot of points to not a lot of points in a professional sporting match. And so, the commentators did a pretty good job here, because you got 42-0, right? The commentators have got one of two ways to go. Either they disparage Warrington for not scoring any points or for letting all the points in, or they strengthen Wigan. So they chose to strengthen Wigan, which is what we all wanted. We all wanted, okay, fair enough. It's 42-0, but that's because the Super League team that they're playing against are so good that is why they can't score any points against them. Ignore the fact that the world probably assumed these were the best two teams, because why wouldn't we send the best two teams? Instead, it turns out that, we send in the best team and the best marketing team. So the commentators were talking 42-0. Yeah, that's because Wigan are impossible to score points against. Wigan never concede points. And there were all these stats about 260 points to 7 in their past 7 games. And God, Wigan are just impossible. Look at that brick wall defence. And then all of a sudden, at about 62 minutes, Wigan just stopped defending. And Warrington scored 22 unanswered points. Wigan then scored another one. And then another one after that. So you've gone from, okay, this cool, nice competitive game to, oh shit, we're going to run away with it. All right, but that's because Wigan are impossible. Yeah, oh, thank God Wigan are impossible. Oh, thank God we've got all these stats to pull from. Come on. Give us Wigan stats. And then all of a sudden, Wigan concede more points in one 20-minute period than they have done for the past 250 or so days. So it just looks like, at this point, both teams bottled it. And I don't want to be so... I don't like being really negative. And it wasn't that negative. It was a decent game. You got to see everyone on the big stage. And I'm sure the Americans loved it because there was plenty of points. And they don't really understand the teams anyway. But I think as a Super League guy, what we saw on that day was the worst thing for Super League. And that's my opinion. I was going to comment on the NRL, but I won't. I'll leave that to you. The weird thing about that game is that every try was converted. When has that ever happened before? I think we need to paint our goalposts yellow, because when has it ever happened before that every try was converted? That was pretty weird, that. All right, so we're going to end here on a positive. Number 6 for me, and it comes from that same game again, that same fateful game in Las Vegas, baby. Wigan versus Warrington, and it was the dying moments of the game. And I said to my wife and my mum earlier in the week, I was like, if they really want to advertise this game, what they need to do is they need to get Matty Ashton and Jay Field in a foot race, just a foot race. If they really want to advertise this to Americans, they need to get the two, I think, fastest players in the league to just race each other and just see what happens. No balls, maybe no. I don't know what's to do with wherever you want to do it, on the beach, do it on the moon. I don't care, but get these two speedsters to race each other so that the American audience sees just how fast they both are. And what we saw in the dying moments of that game was exactly my dream come to fruition. Matty Ashton does what Matty Ashton does, and the reason I hate him, he intercepts a pass and he just legs it down the field. And he's gone. He is gone, boy. Except Wigan also have a player called Jay Field. And Jay Field turns on his heels and legs it after Matty Ashton. And we see it happening in front of our eyes. We see a slightly unfair foot race because Jay Field's got a bit of an angle to go on, so he's actually got more distance to cover. And god damn it, does he catch him at the end. And he goes for him. And we've seen it time and time again. Oh, we've seen this play out. We've seen Bucky Young centres, wingers, second row, running down that edge, and Jayfield just hot on their heels, frothing at the mouth, and Jayfield goes for it. He's got Matty Ashton's number. He launches himself at him, but all he gets is a boot. Matty Ashton loses his boot, but does he stop? Does he? Fuck. And he carries on and he puts the ball down, and it is probably the best interception runaway try that we'll ever see in our lives. The lad finished it with one shoe. You see the footage after it of people returning his shoe to him, and he doesn't give a shit. He's knackered as the lad. He got to 35 point something miles per hour running on his feet. My car bill, he does that. That, to me, should be how we sum up that game at the weekend. As it happens, it's not. Alright guys, I've talked enough. I've talked a little bit too much about the weekend. My 6 again for the weekend. We got Junior December, the handsome bastard. We got Saints' first try. We got Salford Red Devils. We got the mean old Lee defence. Vegas baby. And Matty Ashton versus Jayfield in the dying minutes of that game. You let me know what your 6 again are, please. Love to hear them. Let me know what you think of my 6 again. And any comments are always welcome. Alright, thanks guys. See you again soon.